Mike has been in many important positions. Among the things, like he used to work for General Electric, am I correct? Mm-hmm. And so in other words, with his background, his idea for helping us, because not only he has great corporate America experience, he also has great governance issues on HOA on both sides of the fence. In other words, he used to be running HOA management company, right? As well as on the recipient side of managing the management company. Am I right?
Managing associations.
Associations. So I will let Mike talk a little bit about himself, and then he's going to start his talk. And many people are thrilled to listen to him because he explained the concept so clearly. So I think it's a treat. Let's welcome Mike.
Thank you very much. Actually, my intro will tell you a little bit about why I'm here in my background.
Because we forced you.
Hey, it's like Comedy Club, a return appearance. At the Residents' Voice meeting, I started off by saying that I was there, as I am here, to really express my own observations. I've been in the association management business the last 10 years of my life. I retired in September of 2012, and I've been what's called a portfolio manager, where I've managed as many as 12 separate associations, and I've worked at 3 companies, so I've gotten insights into how management companies function, how they function differently, and kind of like a policeman, you get a sixth sense about things. It's like cops, when they're walking up to a car, pretty well know if they have to unholster their weapon. With boards, over the years, I've probably worked with 60 boards. And the range is all over the map, from the wild and crazy to the ones that are just like the General Electric corporate board and make informed decisions. It's a normal curve like anything else. So in doing the presentation a couple of weeks ago for Residents' Voice, I viewed it as a forum, and I give people one of the reasons why. And I read that ad, and I guess a lot of other people read the ad, and it just inflamed me because I saw 4 or 5 candidates being broad brushed by the same accusation, which was just over the top. It's like all of these people want to dissolve the trust. All of these people want to remove PCM. They all want to do all those horrible things. And I was at the presentations they made when they were running. I didn't see any wild and crazy people there. So to do that just really got me going. So I immediately wrote a letter to the Globe. This is my opportunity to give them a jab. And the following week, it wasn't published, which is okay. I have no expectation that my letter should be, printed. And I did see a 322-word letter there, and they have a 250-word maximum. And I looked at the bottom, and that was gone. Somehow it disappeared. So I contacted them, and they came back and said, oh, on our computer, it was exactly 250 words. And I suggested they get the print edition with the sharp number 2 pencil, count each word. I get 322, even counting hyphenated words once. And then, of course, the failure of the supported candidates to disavow the ad, to me, was probably critical, probably in their non-election. I mean, it's like an attorney who puts a lot of garbage out in front of a courtroom, gets overruled by the judge. He says, okay, well, the jurors heard all that stuff, so it's still in their head. So the offer to speak at the Residents' Voice meeting was kind of like my chance to have a forum. And I was disappointed in the Globe because they removed the director's corner because I guess we've had a number of directors write columns where they express dissent, and that wasn't what they wanted, so that was removed. On the other hand, they print an ad that has just awful representations in it, so. Misrepresentations, that's it. Okay, thanks to Mary's presentation on really the technical issues of the GRF Trust. Oddly enough, it is on the website, I believe, yes. Right? When you become a director, they don't give you a copy of the trust agreement. You have to ask.
It's on the website.
I don't know why. I guess it's not that important. So there's a couple ways of looking at this. The trust agreement is really two documents. We have the trust agreement itself, as Marie went through, and then we also have the bylaws. And the bylaws are like any bylaw. They have processes, elections, meetings, all kinds of details. The trust expires in 10 years. It's a 49, 50-year-old document right now. All four entities, GRF, United, Third, and 50, must agree to extend, revise, or replace the agreement. Agreement will be impossible unless all four agree together in writing. Now, the simplest thing is to say, just extend it, but that's really not the right way to go. In getting these four constellations to agree to each other, right now, it's pretty much like getting Syria, Iran, Israel, and the United States agreeing on chemical weapons or nuclear proliferation. So the real terrorist here is that one board that would not agree to any form of revision or modification to bring these documents up to date. That person or that board that puts its foot in the ground could actually trigger the Armageddon, which is expiration of the trust. The trust expires and you distribute assets amongst the mutuals, and it's not a good scenario. The bylaws, however, that's a different scenario. The Corporate Members Council, which is made up of the 27 directors from the 3 housing mutuals, they can vote as a body to amend the bylaws. Now, the bylaws don't have to do with expenditures and budgets and stuff like that, but they do contain provisions for the elections, meetings, stuff like that. So really right now, and it's a numbers game because you vote blocks based on the number of votes you have in United, Third, and 50. You could get a majority of the Corporate Members Council right now to possibly vote for a direct election and pass it, in which case it would be binding. I'll just go back there for a moment. One of the things I talk about later is why specifying the method of direct election could be very dangerous right now. But at any rate, it could be possible to amend the bylaws. Okay, back to the trust itself. The inconvenient truth. There was a Paul Hastings legal memorandum that a lot of people have put a lot of thought into the process. It answers a bunch of questions. It was supposed to look for differences between the trust agreement and the bylaws. However, most of the agreement just answers questions. But one of the things that appears in there was this quote: "The Golden Rain Foundation Trust appears to be antiquated and fraught with inconsistent record keeping, irrelevant exhibits, tax analysis, filings, and references that are no longer relevant. It appears that the GRFT was a trust form for construction in construction lending purposes only. And it was. 50 years ago, it was a good document. It was a document they needed, otherwise we wouldn't be here today. That was 50 years ago. Do things get changed, amended? Does the Constitution get amended? I think the women have votes here today because of an amendment to the Constitution. Do HOA documents get amended? All the time. In new homes, when the developer builds a community, the developer is called the declarant and is in charge during construction, makes all the decisions, has all the board power, and then when the last home is sold, he resigns, you have a resident board of directors, and it's like, good luck, you got it from now on. Typically what I found is about 5 years later, the board hires an attorney, and you go through and you take all the developer stuff out, it's no longer relevant. You bring it up to date, there have been case laws on security and HOAs and other provisions that you want to get in your agreement so that you're protected. So they will normally restate their bylaws. It's something that's done. Extending the trust agreement for another 60 years just makes no sense. It's like a Civil War battle plan, and it's not going to work in today's world. The other thing is that the big failures I see, and what you'll see is my main point here is all of our problems that we have really, in one way or another, relate to this structure we have that's been created by the trust and the mutuals, which is there's no relationship defined between the governing documents for each of the mutuals and GRF. If you look in United, there's nothing in there about GRF saying we need to do this, they need to do that. I mean, we know from the trust agreement their main job, which is to operate and maintain and improve the facilities, that's their governing document, and it serves that purpose. But there's no levels of approval, disapproval, review, collaboration between the three mutuals and GRF, and there should be. Anyone opposing an extension has been labeled as simply wanting to dissolve the trust. The trust can be amended, modified, or replaced with a more suitable document. It's not an easy thing. It would take a lot of time and effort to think through how that document should be changed, but it should be reformed. Many HOAs have a master and have sub-associations that share joint responsibilities in crucial economic and policy decisions. I can think of almost no master association, sub-association type homeowners association where a minimum of 6 people could commit $10 million to a loan that covers 12,732 units. It's insane. That doesn't work in the world outside the gates. It just doesn't. And there are many models for master sub associations. They're all over the map. You could get a bunch of HOA attorneys and say, show us some of the models for doing this. And it really gets down to specifying how the mutuals and the master operate with each other, who's responsible for what kind of decisions, where votes are needed, either by the respective boards or in some cases all of the members of the association. We have GRF now with a sole and absolute discretion, allowing as few as 6 people to make decisions impacting the whole community. And I say a $5 million landing pad for UFOs, don't laugh, it could be possible. It could be possible. Essentially, we have 4 bodies. We have a planetary system. We have 4 bodies orbiting around each other. We have Planet GRF and Planet United and Planet Third, each without any defined relationship. We're told that GRF's business is not United's business, which is not Third's business, which is not 50's business. This is just a recipe for continued strife over the years. While GRF's budget affects the whole community, the housing mutuals have little say or input. Now, if it was 2% of a budget, or 5%, or under 10%, maybe there's some truth there, but in some of our mutuals, there's a substantial hunk of GRF expenses in the budget to say, sorry, on that planet, not your planet. So you just take kind of what we give you. The required approach is to work now on examining the various models for an effective master sub HOA. Why wait 10 years? I think if we have directors, if we have people in place who have clear thinking, they ought to start a task force, a study, something going right now. But what happened, unfortunately, we heard today that the bylaws committee for GRF is stuck because United won't go along with the amendments that they propose. Well, the amendments they propose are crazy, because in the bylaws, there are 3 restrictions now on GRFs that require approval by the 27 corporate committee members. The creation of any new mutual, sale or lease of Golden Rain Foundation real estate, the acquisition of real estate, those currently require approval. The task force said, oh no, we'll remove those and go in concert with the trust agreement, which says GRF has absolute sole discretion. So we're removing restrictions which eliminate participation in important economic, financial decision-making. We're going backwards. And my understanding is the committee at one of its first meetings actually said, well, we don't want to look at any new forms or anything else. We just want to look at extending the agreement and getting the bylaws and the trust together. Well, what they came up with, yeah, it's nice to get them together, but that's pretty much arranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. You really need to look beyond this and be progressive rather than reactionary and come up with a new solution so that these planets can kind of orbit around each other. We discovered that. Our new leaders need to get it and work on revision. Okay, removal of PCM. To be fair, there are many aspects of management company evaluation. Customer service, maintenance quality, clarity of financial reports, management interaction with boards. With 4 separate management contracts, PCM is in a very difficult position and can be in the position of defending both the victim and the perpetrator because they have contracts with each of the 4 plans. Siding with a particular entity is dangerous to the management company. And when I say there are many aspects, they all need to be looked at because we all have personal experiences. And I've had very favorable experiences myself with the quality in the level of the service people, the staff people. I know some people haven't. The other thing is that the management company has a fiduciary responsibility to the corporation, to the United Third 50, to the corporation, not to the board, not to any particular director or directors. And that's a very important thing. It does require profiles and courage sometimes when you have a board wanting to go one way and you as a manager are saying, that's not right for the corporation. One troubling aspect for me that I've observed is the use of attorney letters alleging tortious interference with contractual relations to intimidate directors or other boards who are simply seeking information. Now, you learn in law school that that type of lawsuit requires two things. One is intent. That person or these people had the intent to commit a tort. Number two, there was actual damage. In most of these cases, there was no damage and there was no intent. So the letters that these directors received, their only purpose was to intimidate and scare people. I mean, when I was on the United board, I filled the 3-month spot, and we had a resolution to look at the bank loan agreement, just to look at it. And the directors that voted for their resolution, I was out of town, I didn't get to vote, each got an attorney letter, you know, alleging tortious interference with contractual relations. That's really vile. And that's been done in the past. I understand there was other directors who have tried to get information about other forms of government, other forms of management, et cetera, and they've got the letters. I mean, in business, okay, you're out to kill the competition. This is a homeowners association. And we don't need people sending those kinds of letters. The key here is whether the management agent was complicit, warned the board, because they have a fiduciary responsibility to the corporation, or just stood by, since this issue has to do with ethical integrity. I don't know. Removal is basically a board decision, but a weak board will obviously love a management agent that issues no warnings and just goes along. So they're not going to make decisions to, you know, can someone. But the bottom line in the world outside the gates again is that PCM is a vendor, just like a painting company, a roofing company, and they can be replaced. It happens all the time. And most management companies are always on their toes because they know they could get a pink slip if they do not please the board. And it works both ways, folks. I've been in situations where my company's been fired. The guy who's the new board president got a series of letters about how ugly his lawn was, and when he got on the board, we were history. In other cases, we've had boards that were a little dangerous with what they were doing in terms of legalities and whatever, and we fired them. We gave them a notice saying we no longer can service your needs. Find another management company. The other thing is that companies can be directed to change their behaviors. So all aspects of service need to be evaluated prior to pulling the plug. What is self-management? This thing really has been brooded about quite a bit. And basically, if you're a large-scale homeowners association, you make an A-B decision right up front. You either self-manage or you hire an agent, meaning a management company. There's no right or wrong. Codo de Casa, for instance, employs Keystone Pacific as their management agent. Nellie Gale Ranch down the road hired their own general manager, so they're self-managed. With an agent, the employees are employed by the management company and charged back to the homeowners association. With self-management, the employees are employed by the HOA, by the corporation. But the organization structure is generally the same in either case. I mean, it really gets down to who's the employer. Of course, with self-management, there is no additional management company fee. With a changeover to a different format, going from self-management to management company, or vice versa, the existing employees are simply re-employed by the new entity. Any changes are normally made at the top level, where positions and departments might be eliminated or changed. very often you might replace the general manager, or not. You might get rid of a department or two. But probably 90–95% of all the employees who are cutting the grass and doing whatever they're doing simply get reemployed by the new organization. The HOA has control over all salary levels and benefits with self-management. Their employees are in charge. There's always a bumpy transition period, but life goes on as before. I will say that even with a management company, most often the board does have control over compensation and benefits. We don't have that situation here. I was an on-site manager, and that board got right down to everything I got, including mileage for my car, bonuses, whatever. And I can see the problem here is perhaps, I'm not going to blame PCM, because it could be structural. Again, our 4 orbiting planets. So if we're going to control compensation and organization structure, who does that? Is United going to take over the landscaping people, and Third's going to take over painters or something? And I mean, it's so fractionated that you don't have the corporate structure to really manage these people well. So, as I'm saying, the reason a master substructure is needed is that it would be difficult for a general manager to report equally to our 4 orbiting satellites without more defined roles and responsibilities. The recreation plan. I'm actually neutral on the plan itself, as I consider the financing is seriously flawed. Prior to today, the $1,500 facilities fee was implemented to return money to the mutual for their reserves to tackle big issues such as dry rot and sewers. Now, I was a little bit wrong on this. I was searching for the reason for the facilities fee fund. You know, there had to be some document somewhere saying what that $1,500 was for. And there was a board letter in August of 2011, it was published on the website, and after chastising members who talked to the board, they went and said the single most important duty is to maintain and perpetuate our respective corporations. As our community ages, the need and cost for maintenance becomes greater. If, in addition, we choose to update or improve existing facilities, this will come as an additional cost. I guess so. At the same time, we recognize that the future, even the very near future, is dependent on attracting new members who appreciate the benefits of Laguna Woods Village. The facilities fee is offered as a partial solution to these 2 powerful demands of affordability and attracting new members. So, at its inception, the idea was maintenance and improvements. Now that's kind of ambiguous. So it's kind of like motherhood and apple pie. So now we have 10 million, well, with reserves, maybe 19 million going to apple pie. Not so much over here to motherhood. And I'm only thinking that maybe this dawned on the GRF board that they were kind of eluding, you know, the original purpose of the facilities fee, in like, oh, maybe we should put $1,000 extra in there. So if people criticize us for kind of being blindsided here, we can, you know, point to the extra $1,000, if that's the intent. But it struck me as I'm told that this came up as a public policy discussion, and wham bam, it was voted on, it was done. And I don't get that because I was at the corporate members council, and we looked at direct election, and we were going to vote on putting that on ballots, and oh boy, the other mutuals really said, something like this is very important. It requires lots of study. Before we can move on this, it must really be studied. Well, Third Mutual, 2 months ago, 3 months ago, tabled the discussion. Two of the members of that board are self-professed parliamentarians, and when I looked in Robert's rules, it said if you table something, it has to be taken off the table by the end of the meeting. So I don't know, it's still there. If anyone sees it, you could take it up and, next board meeting say, hey, we found it. So there's really been no discussion. They have not really gotten into, examining it. So something like direct election requires so much study and thought. I was just astounded that $1,000 could be tacked on to this fee like that. I mean, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. So the thing that got my goat originally is that this loan was probably conducted in the same manner. I don't know that there was a lot of discussion, open debate, stuff like that. And so a 15-year cash flow is hijacked for one capital project. And there are lots of documents going around, I know, about this architect said that architect said that. I saw a 2006 report, which I think people relied on, but there are other reports. I'm not sure which one's right. But at that time, it was like $5 million to renovate the clubhouse too, and $7.7 million to replace it. And I talked to a friend of mine who's an architect who builds large-scale projects. He said, well, today that might be 11 million, 10, 11 million if you were going to replace it. And what I'm saying is that it's kind of like telling your kid that he can replace his Chevrolet because it's worn out, and he comes home with a Bentley convertible. And if you look at the restaurant at the clubhouse over there where Restaurant 19 is, that's a very attractive building. And I think it would be very possible to either renovate or replace, whatever the final engineering report is, clubhouse too, to look as good as that in the same mission style. And I'm sure in the renovation process you can upgrade some of the facilities and make the two of them just kind of interact with each other and look really good. Obviously, the ease with which this facilities fee cash flow is so easily diverted to apple pie instead of motherhood, to me, that's a serious governance issue. Direct election. Did you notice it didn't appear in that political ad? We had all this other stuff. No direct election. Wonder why. I think perhaps it's way too popular to talk about in a negative way. The current method does assume superior or super knowledge by directors. And I'm thinking, how about the 8 or 11 new directors? We just had elections. We have 4 people in United. I think 3 or 4. I don't know about 50. I think there are a couple there. So these are all new people. They're new, and next month you're going to vote. You're going to be part of this group of 27. You're going to select, the GRF board. The process is very similar to the College of Cardinals electing a pope. It's not what you have in most HAs, which is kind of direct representative, elections. You would think that people would think very hard about these choices, but they don't. They meet in back rooms and say, we're going to throw our votes to, Pam or Mary or this person. Don't vote for that person. And it's subject to abuse. Has it always been abused?
Yeah.
Probably it has. I don't know. But certainly there have been recent examples. People have said the easiest way to get on the board is to fail an election for a mutual. And if you're on the right side of the fence, you'll be there. So, I mean, during the holidays when you go home or have people over, just tell them, you know, we live in a community with 12,732 homes and multi-million dollars. We have so many acres, so many amenities, this and that. And you know, all of the decisions get made by this 11-person board.
6.
So if you get 6 people going one way, we're done. Most people would say, crazy, you know? And we are to allow that. And, you know, electing new people either by district or general election or by mutual or whatever, the assumption is somehow that, again, they're going to ruin the community. You're going to get more representation up at the GRF. And as soon as they get there, they're going to ruin the community. Get rid of the trust, get rid of PCM, do this, do that. The only sticky issue that I see would be how. I think right now you could find a whole mess of corporate members who vote yes for direct election. The how can get into a big cat fight. And because people have very strong views on this way, that way. You might form a task force and give them the role. Failing that, you might even put the choices on the ballots next year for the elections for directors and say, here are 3 choices, tell us what you'd like to see. But obviously, I think its time has come. It reminds me very much of the 6-month lease restriction in United, where the new people on the board were going to be taught a lesson. We're going to vote on this. You know, we're going to show you that there's a silent majority out there that do not agree with you. Well, 70% of that silent majority voted the other way. And
But at least they got to vote.
but at least they got to vote. And that was a good thing. Resident CEO, just talk about this briefly. This reference appeared in that ad. You know, something to beware of. Without any further discussion. I'm familiar with the person, most often pointed to as the leading a secret cabal to install a CEO in place of PCM. That person is denied any interest in such a position and does not feel qualified for such a job. I can furnish a written disclaimer on any request. So if there's anyone out there in Sabre Village or whatever, I'd be glad to give them a letter from this person saying, no, that's not true. So as far as I'm concerned, they should put that one to bed. Summary. The world is not coming to an end. We have many viable options to improve the governance of the community. 3 of the current boards have a slim majority of the reactionary directors, just enough to stalemate needed progress on more important issues. However, having a slim majority doesn't always work. Sometimes people see the light and a slim majority vanishes. What is needed is a determination to elect new leaders that have vision, intelligence, ethics, and compassion. Most importantly, they should have heart. In our hands, we all have love and fear. And someone who has heart, someone who has intelligence, is going to promote love and not instill fear in our residents. Telling people that if they don't like it, if they can't afford it, they can move.
Yeah.
We don't all have Mercedes, play golf 3 times a week. We have a diverse group of people. And telling people that they should move, it's vile and unacceptable. Thank you.
Thanks. That's just more than what I expected, and I think I can hear from the attention everybody is given. So now we can start some question and answer session. Okay. Let me get the microphone over here. There's Mike there. No, I don't have any question.
Hi,
My name is Sally Rosoff, and I have a question based on Mary's presentation. And I think I was correct in what I thought I saw. It went by pretty quickly. In item 2,
My mistake.
in item 2, it said, what I saw was that there can be no expenditure made which extends over the amount that the boards have allotted. And from what I saw in that statement, it seems to me that taking out a loan of $10 million doesn't conform to item 2. Can you address that?
Okay, let's get item 2. Item 2 says, it is specifically understood and agreed that completion of all the improvements as planned is dependent upon the development of Leisure World being fully completed. Is that the one you're referring to? Okay. I think what you're referring to then is the one that says, GRF at its discretion shall refund credit to the members of the cooperatives their proportionate share of sums in excess of the amount expended or obligated. No?
No.
Okay.
It is about expenditures made by GRF shall not exceed the funding that they have received from the mutual.
Okay, no cooperative shall be obligated to pay for improvements more than its respective increment contributed to said trust. That one? No? Okay, here.
While she's finding it, we can have another one, maybe for mine. Right here. Okay, okay.
Yes, I'd like to direct this to Mike. Mike, you did state, this is more of a statement actually than a question. You stated that the bylaws of GRF can be amended by majority vote of corporate members. Unfortunately, that's not quite true. There is most of them can be, but there's 14.1 which prevents the corporate members removing any GRF director without a 2/3 vote, and we haven't found a way around that yet, unfortunately.
What I'm suggesting is not removing any director. What I'm suggesting is direct election would be changing the process.
Oh, yes,
The
yes,
process.
we could do that with direct election.
Removal, and it would be long-term, because, I mean, if I were on the board, my recommendation would be that direct election is implemented for GRF board next November, when, I don't know, 2 or 3 people come up for election. The method is the sticky point. But by the time you hit November, hopefully there'll either be a survey, things on a ballot, whatever is selected, but it would just change the way you do it, from the Vatican Council to, you know.
No argument with you there, Mike.
Okay.
It had nothing to do with direct elections, but just the GRF bylaws in general. The fact that most of them can be amended by a majority vote of the corporate members, but there are certain ones that if they require a 2/3 vote
Sure.
now,
You're
you
right.
have to get 2/3 to get rid of a director, for example. Thank you.
Here we go. Okay.
I have a question. Why one vote per manor? That disenfranchises a lot of people, including me. If my husband wants to vote one way, and who says? One vote per manor.
Sorry, it's always that way. No, I mean, I've looked at hundreds of HOA documents, you know, CC&Rs, conditions. No, I mean, unfortunately, it's always one vote per generally member, which is a house owner. So if the people are,
Oh, well then he doesn't get a vote.
well, if your name's on the title,
I have a question on that. That opens up another idea that comes to mind. If you can only have one vote, and you've got a studio apartment, or you've got a 2,400 square foot house, but yet we're all paying the same management fees, how do you equate that with why we shouldn't have more votes per person? Because we certainly don't have any justification. Nothing here is based on square footage, which I believe it should be, because it's not fair that somebody in a tiny unit is paying the same amount of money from somebody in a house that requires more maintenance and service contracts.
We didn't start that night.
You did take that one?
Well, as I understand it, the option is given actually in the CC&Rs as to which direction in this community in the beginning selected to everybody pays the same amount.
Yeah.
On a shared cost basis.
Again, in almost all HOAs, everybody gets an equal vote. They don't give the person who owns the 30,000 square foot house, more votes than the other person. But I have seen in condominium situations where there are large stacked units and stuff, where the fee, the monthly fee, and this is generally in cases that are like high rises, where you have a concierge staff, you have porters, and you have other needs. And sometimes they will make a differentiation in fees between a small unit and a large unit. Of course, we all share the amenity fees equally, whether we're big or small. The only place would perhaps be in the mutual maintenance, But it's seldom done.
Here, but not in Florida.
Somebody back here.
Okay.
Okay, we got one question here.
I got one back here.
Let's go ahead.
Okay, after.
Hi, I want to thank you both for some of the information you've given us. I think I can speak for a lot of people when I'm saying, in healing this universe, most of us feel so disenfranchised because we're not on a board. We can't all be on a board. But we feel impotent. We don't get a chance to vote. This is a symbiotic relationship between GRF and the members of all of the living mutuals. We exist for them and they exist for us. Those people on that board don't own it. We have entrusted them with the responsibility and they're not responding to our needs and our wants. I think some way of expanding how we choose and how we disseminate information from the general residency is important and needed, and we could possibly do this with some sort of ad hoc committee of people who work on a regular basis with your mutuals and come up with some agreement on what the people want. We're talking about $18 million to start on a building, and they have ways of getting around overruns and everything else. I have seen GRF, I believe they directed PCM to replace chairs in a clubhouse, and some of them just needed to be washed. They threw out the worst of them and just went and purchased new ones. So who's looking after our money? How much did chairs cost when they could have hired somebody who needed a job to wash them down? I also have a strong belief that we don't get to manage what PCM does. I strongly suspect that they do not have punch lists of their people coming through our cul-de-sacs, making notes on what needs to be done.
Yeah.
They're leaving it up to us to call. And when we call, I can't tell you how many times a work order for general repair in our cul-de-sac gets lost. It took us 2.5 years to get a guardrail replaced, which kept trash cans from rolling into and damaging our carports. So I think we need to expand the government and how the information flows to the general residents. Thank you.
I think the focus should be on the limit of expenditure, because, got it? Okay. I don't think it's that significant, the person that's elected. I have no objection to direct elections, but I think the focus should be on limiting the amount of money that GRF can be authorized to spend. Let's say it was $2 million, and then it has to go to some other approval, either through the boards or a direct vote, a referendum that says, yes, we want an $18 million central recreation department. So I think more important than the people that are elected would be the limits on their power.
There you go.
We have another one here.
As a former president, I should say, of United, we talk about a $40 million, $49 million budget. We spend, each mutual spends 5 months of the year putting that budget together. We don't do it in one day. We do it over several days, public meetings, until we come up with the final budget. It's an embarrassment when I tell you that more people are sitting in this row right here than showed up at the 3 meetings where we made the final decision in United for $49,800,000. And of those people, you see 5 here, 3 of those people were staff people from PCM, and 2 of those people come to every meeting no matter what it is. People do not show up and then they start complaining. It happens all the time. We make announcements, I did as a president in every meeting, please come, and people don't show because they say they're too busy with swimming, they got this club, they got that, the weather is bad, they don't feel good. We've got to get the people to attend. Comment on the money that's being spent. I joined the board 4 years ago. I was told that 2 years prior, GRF wanted to tear down Clubhouse 2 and build a 5-star clubhouse and actually sell memberships to the public and be able to have people from outside come in so that they could raise money. That was turned down by the boards. I was sent one day to a committee meeting for the new starter building because nobody else on the board wanted to go that Friday. I came into the meeting and they were talking about $6 million for a building. And they were going to build another road off of Moulton to where the building was going to be so that they could bring the trucks in and it would be all gated. And they were going to use the old building for people to check in and get their carts, and then they could go to the golf course. After 20 minutes, I raised my hand, stood up and said, forget what you're going to do. Tear down the old golf building. Don't put gardens up there. Don't tear down and build a new road into the club there. All you have to do is go over to Clubhouse 2. There's 2 rooms with kitchens. You could have your hot dogs there. There's a room for you to issue the carts out there and get it done. Everybody went silent. The architect raised his hand and said, you just saved this community $250,000. Now, do you think anybody liked what I did in that meeting? I got more complaints about my interfering with a committee that was on for 3 years. If you want to get anything done in this committee, you have to fill the committee rooms up with people. You have to fill the board rooms up during the board meetings with people, even if you're just sitting there and not saying anything. Publicity is what gets things done, and image is very important.
Hi. It looks like right now we're faced with $10 million loan and a master recreation plan and tearing down the Clubhouse 2 and dealing with impossible paperwork. Is there a way to stop all of this now, just to give us time to get rearranged and have some of that paperwork put in order so we can get together? Otherwise, we are facing exactly $10 million loan, tearing down Clubhouse 2, and the master recreation plan. We need time. Is there a way right now to get this loan canceled or get it deferred or get it put off to give us time?
One vote. We need one vote. One vote? One vote.
We are shy by one vote, right?
One vote.
Is there a legal way, as you see all the time in government, to put a delay on it by starting a lawsuit?
Don't want to go there. No. It's costly and it won't get done. Don't want to go there.
Well, it's costly either way.
Yeah, really.
That's true. That's true. Okay.
Okay, Pat has a comment. You want to come here, Pat?
No, that's fine.
Pat.
Okay, thanks. If we could get 2/3 of the corporate directors or the corporate members to vote to remove one of the present GRF people, we'd have 6 on the board. The problem is third directors do not want to vote with us. So we have 3 on third, and we have 10 on United, which gives us almost what we need. It gives us what we need. But we need 2/3. We need 2/3 vote in order to get, we need 2 more votes in order to remove one of the GRF directors, and then we'd have our 6 that we need.
There's one right there. You haven't spoken yet, right? Okay, you're next.
I'm a snowbird, and whenever I come back in November, I try to find out what's going on. So I attended a number of meetings, and I have to agree with the former, did you say you were president?
Yeah.
Because I belong to United, and the United board had a wonderful forum that they had every month, and people would come and ask questions, and the directors that were there would answer these questions. And I can't tell you how much misinformation people have. And I can understand that people don't have time to attend every meeting or watch everything on television for the whole meeting, and try to get as much information as they can. But I'll tell you, I have heard more misinformation coming from all kinds of people, you know? I mean, I look at the clubhouse and I say to myself, well, why are they spending so much money? Well, I found out, you know, when they went into Clubhouse 3 to fix the portico, they found tremendous dry rot and poor construction there, and it cost them a whole much more to do that than they thought. So they started thinking, well, maybe renovating Clubhouse 2 is not going to be as easy as we thought. And they started looking at it in terms of fixing all the...
Hold it down.
Why don't you come here? Vote on this. Otherwise, we're going to lose our audience.
And fixing all the dry rot and the poor construction that was there, and they'd have to go down to the studs, refigure many things, etc. And they thought perhaps that would be more expensive, or very much as expensive as it would be to reconstruct a whole new clubhouse. So now that sounds reasonable to me, and I think people should read the latest architect's assessment of this whole thing, because I think that's very important, because they found, you know, the construction of this place, come on. It's really very costly to reconstruct around here. We know that. The other thing that affected me when I was listening to the fact of this loan is capital. Capital is needed when you have to do something. You have to collect capital together if you want to do something that's bigger than the small amounts that we have. It sounds huge up there because we only deal with budgets that are in the maybe tens of thousands range. So this is a whole, you know.
Okay, we gotta go.
Excuse me,
Okay, we only had 2 minutes.
but that's
Come
one
on, Ed.
consideration.
Get
The other
control.
consideration is that we are in a period of very low interest rates. If we delay and delay and delay until something falls down, interest rates are gonna be higher, and that'll be a crisis situation.
Okay, thank you.
So these are the things that, I just want to say that
Thank you.
when I came back, I studied all these things, and these are the points that stick in my
Okay,
mind.
good.
Thank you. Okay,
Now, here, I can answer her.
First off, we have millions in reserves. It's not like we had no money. My name is Carol Moore, and we have millions in reserves. We give GRF $4.5 million in reserve money every year. You pay $30 a month.
But what is
So
it
that's-
for? What is it for?
What do you think it's for? What are
what-
reserves? Go ahead.
It's for our plumbing.
No, it isn't.
No.
I'm sorry. Let me correct you.
That is not
Let me correct you. The $4.5 million that goes to GRF, $30 per man or per month, is strictly for GRF reserves. Has nothing to do with plumbing, has nothing to do with dry rot. It is for GRF to buy equipment, to fix the clubhouses, to do the modernization. And now and then with the $1,500 transfer fee, they were getting another $1.5 million a year, so that was 6. Today they decided they needed another $1 million, so now they're going to have for themselves $7.5 million per year for maintenance of the amenities. Where should that money be going? In my opinion, and I said it today on television at GRF, should be going to the housing mutuals because we have problems with the sewers, we have problems with dry rot. The allocation of the funds is improper. Now, to answer your question about the dry rot, the architect did the study. We hired the architect. I was on the committee to do it. We hired the architect because he had expertise in taking older buildings up in the Pasadena, Altadena, up in that area, and refurbishing those buildings. He knows how to do it, and he knows how to do the survey. You're being misled when you say we have so much dry rot, that we have the foundation that doesn't support. There's no foundation cracks. He already surveyed that. He said at one of the meetings, and I was there at the time, I was on the committee, that for about $100,000, he would be able to bring that building up to current earthquake standards for existing buildings. And the estimate of the cost total to redo that building was $3.5 million.
He said 3.1, I was there, I took notes. He said it would cost $450 per square foot to construct that building today because of its quality. And we are going to build one for $300 a square foot. So it will be of lesser quality than the one we have. He said it would be $3.1 million to refurbish it, and it would be $5 million to build the new. That's what he said. I was there, I took the notes. So that was the same architect, the same one that reviewed it, and the same one that designed the new building.
What was it that I heard then about the...
Okay, well,
all right.
let's move on.
You can take this offline, okay?
Yeah.
Pam Grunke, resident. You talk about misinformation. I'm going to tell you about misinformation. Those GRF directors, especially last year's board, could say anything they wanted to, and they did. And I have to tell you, there's plenty of blame to go around because they spread their share of misinformation. The difference was that you couldn't get up and speak again, and they always had the last word. Now, I'm going to tell you about Clubhouse 2. There was the Tomko Wall report. The Tomko Wall report came out 5 or 6 years ago when this renovation in 2006 first raised its ugly head. They had 3 different options. What you don't know is that it was all very on the upscale side because they wanted to tear it down then, and they wanted to build a 3-story
Clubhouse 2 for $31 million. Residents' voice, because they were going to have a restaurant and a dance floor, GRF voted it down. Harry Curtis was the president at the time. They were going to put it on the Hill. They voted it down, and because he was in the majority, he made them vote again to pass Clubhouse 7 after that. He got his retribution, okay? So, the biggest problem and challenge that we have is not dry rot, it's ongoing maintenance. We don't take care of what we have. And if we did, we wouldn't have these problems. We don't need a new Clubhouse 2 because we spent $47,000 on a study. And the architect, as well as the engineer, said there is no dry rot. They looked high and low. And I'm going to tell you something else that you don't know, is that in January of this year, GRF was, the committee was the Clubhouse 2 renovation committee. In March, they voted and they decided that they were going to go from renovation of Clubhouse 2 to the GRF master plan, so that it would encompass the entire community, because I've only missed 2 meetings in the last 3 years. So I suggest that if you're going to have a decision and if you're going to have an opinion, that you get all of the truth. Residents' Voice put out, right after the Tomco Wall report, we had a Collins evaluation by 3 different architects and engineers. They said that the renovations could be done for under $1 million, maybe not as extensive. This Clubhouse 2 has gone through earthquakes, you name it. Why is it still standing? Because it's sturdy and because it's been abused purposely and now they want to tear it down. Let me tell you something. The trustees are nothing more, GRF, they are nothing more than janitors, and they're not doing their job. And it's time that the housing mutual directors put them in their place so that they do their job cost efficiently. And they have to be responsible to us because we pay the bills. Thank you very much.
Thanks. I think that's well said. Now, I have to ask a quick question. Do we want to hear the club insurance thing? Because no?
It's too long.
I want to see a hand. How many people want to hear the club?
Can you read it and add in 10 minutes?
I can do that in 1 minute, okay? I can do that in 1 minute. And then after that, we'll devote time to more
Q&A.
Q&A, okay? How's that?
2 minutes, 2 minutes.
I give you,
Yeah, if I can find a place. Okay.
This is it. I think so. John,